Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you here with us in London. Huge
Thank you.
congratulations on the film.
Thank you.
It's quite a bold decision to tell this story, all from within the confines of this newsroom.
Yeah.
But it has all the sort of tension of an action thriller. When did you make that decision, and what do you think the impact is of telling it from this perspective?
Actually, from a filmmaker's point, it was that challenge that also interested me. Like, how can I tell a story that takes place entirely in one room, more or less, or in one studio in that case? And there's almost something Hitchcockian about the idea of telling a story from a very limited space. So this is, from a filmmaker's point of view, one of the reasons why we wanted to tell it from that perspective. The other reason is that during our research, we found out what we didn't know before and what an important role the media played on that day. And as we got deeper into research there, we were lucky enough to find an eyewitness. That's Jeffrey Mason. That's the character played by John Magaro in the movie. And he experienced it working as a young rookie for ABC Sports. He was there all these 22 hours of a marathon of broadcasting as they made that switch from reporting on the Olympics to reporting strategy, and listening to his stories and what he told us, what challenges they also faced. That was so interesting for us that after this conversation, we for the first time said, like, maybe we can tell it entirely from that perspective. As someone who is working in the media myself, I also felt immediately connected to that angle, more maybe than other aspects of that tragic day that might be even just as relevant or politically even more relevant. But this angle of the media is something that some of these questions that they confronted with in that control room, you also get confronted with, maybe in a less dramatic way, obviously, when making a movie.
I mean, I think some of the things that keep it so compelling is, the fact that we're there sort of following them almost in real time, beat by beat, and the sort of absolute attention to detail with the technology, which of course back then would have been cutting edge and today is really retro.
Yeah.
And then of course all these underlying tensions with all the different characters and, this casual sexism towards Marianne's character and the hierarchy between these men.
Yeah.
So what would you say some of the tools that you use to keep us really involved in the story?
I think that goes from writing to shooting the scene to editing. Maybe I would point out the editing, because the way we shot the movie, it was a very documentary style. So we had, of course, the scenes, but also there was a lot of room for improvisation. And the idea on how we would shoot the movie was that we let everything that comes through these devices, monitors, walkie-talkies, telephones, as much as possible happen in reality on our set, so that the cast would react to real images or real phone calls. And then the DP, Max Förder and I, we said we just would cover it as if we ourselves would be a documentary crew in that room observing these people. And this leads to a lot of, in long takes also. It's almost like rehearsals or a stage play or so. We made like long scenes and we just covered it. And this is why this leads to a lot of material, why the editing then was so important in shaping, and Hans-Jörg Weisbrich had a huge impact on how this movie feels, so that you keep the tension. Ironically, it was more about finding the quiet moments than about keeping the tension in editing. That was the biggest challenge, almost.
And of course, the film very much puts us in the shoes of these individuals having to make those decisions, in a split second.
Yeah.
But there's so many wider implications to telling this story about how, when you're in a position of the media, it becomes a responsibility and you have a lot of power over how that information is going to be spread.
Absolutely.
Which is something far more exaggerated now with social media. So
yes.
What do you hope might be some of the moral questions that people are raising about the power of the media, but also in the way that we consume media and news?
Yeah, I mean, in a way you said it already, that in the moment where you set up a camera and you choose a framing, you're already part of the narrative or the story or the news in that way. And we thought that, today we are living in a time where the media landscape around us is so rapidly evolving, right? As you just said, like today everybody can take a picture, be a reporter, send it out, and we don't even know yet what it means for how we perceive the world or political events also. And we thought that it might be interesting to take a step back and see how a little bit more than 50 years ago, it was the first time that as they were alive, they had to make all these decisions. So we hope that through this historical lens, the audience will get inspired to discuss about questions how we consume the news and the media today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing
Thank
all
you.
that with me.
Thank you.
And can't wait for everyone else to see September 5th. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Yes,
Nice to
thank
meet
you.
you.
Have a good day.